Hey everyone, this is the Bite-Sized Weekly. We are back after a long time again. But yeah, I'm glad to be here. By the way, I'm Soham and this is Harish. We will be your co-hosts for the podcast. Um, but yeah, Harish, how you been, man?
Uh, this week's been, stressful, especially the month of May, right
Mhm.
before AP tests and track and field, competitions starting up, life's been stressful,
Yeah,
And how about you?
same. I mean, for me, it's APs, and that's pretty much just it right now. I'm not focusing on anything else. Just trying to cram as much for the APs as possible. But yeah, I mean, it's been pretty interesting. I've just honestly, yeah, I've just been going to the gym a lot and APs, pretty much it. I got my
Grind is
license.
real.
I passed my road test. So
Oh, nice, man.
yeah,
Did you get your physical license?
dude. So the DMV is just, they're just how they are. And
They're slow.
honestly, I can't blame them, but they were packed pretty much the entire week. And because, so many people at this time, like our age, they're going and getting their licenses. So
Yeah.
they were pretty much packed, but I just have to, go and get my license, but I can drive alone now. So
Can't they oh, they mailed to you after you go to the DMV and get your
yeah,
picture taken and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's been pretty interesting.
The grind is real, right?
Yeah,
Going to the gym every day and
yeah,
working out.
yep.
I mean, it's all for a good cause at the end of the
Oh yeah.
day. And I think everybody respects the grind. So keep it up,
Mm.
Summer bod's in sight.
Summer bods in sight. As I'm drinking a caramel drink. My cheat day. It's my cheat day.
Yeah. It's fine. Saturday, it's
Yeah,
8 p.m. Who cares?
yeah.
All
All
right.
right.
So today, have you heard recently about the whole cybersecurity, like the pipeline attack against the US government?
So I've read a couple, like I've seen the headlines, but I'm not really sure if you would mind going through that.
Yeah, so what actually happened was it wasn't a terrorist group or like any hostile state like Russia, China, or Iran, but it was actually more of a criminal extortion ring, right?
Hmm.
Where the whole purpose of it wasn't to what's it disrupt the economy,
Hmm.
but it was to extract corporate data for ransom, right?
Hmm.
So it goes to really show how vulnerable our government is and how easily any terrorist group can cause a commotion, right? Or not just terrorist group, anybody, right? Any hackers or anything like that. And the fact that it took so long for our government to actually respond to the problem is the big issue,
Yeah.
right? Uh, and honestly, it's sad to see the response to it
Hmm.
in the US. I was looking at TikTok, Reddit, stuff like that, and I saw like a bunch of people just buying gas, right? Like
Hmm.
this is how and to think people like react to this sort of thing, right?
Hmm.
Like to shortages, right?
Yeah.
Say if someone says, "Oh, we're running out of gas," or "We're
Hmm.
running out of boba," right? People start buying more,
Yeah.
and and that's not how you're supposed to respond to that sort of situation, right?
Exactly. I mean,
You're supposed to conserve, right? And you're
mhm.
supposed to make sure that there's enough for everybody, right? You can't be selfish when everybody else
Yeah.
also needs the same things that we do.
I guess like
So
that's really when the test happens because I know like we like to think that oh yeah when it happens I'll be like selfless or when it happen after the fact that it happens something happens right and you feel and nothing happened after that like let's say with the COVID thing right like the pandemic like toilet paper was just out right so after the thing is like happening, you're like, it wasn't too bad. Yeah, I would have been selfless and not bought any toilet paper, but I panicked. I think that panic buying is kind of the thing, right? Like honestly, like human, but like instinct is to be like safe, right? Obviously, and just being that extra paranoid is an instinct, but it becomes too much at one point where where we see stuff like that happening. I know I haven't read like anything about this, but I saw the TikToks that you're talking about. Is like they're filling up like the plastic bags with it, the tubs, the storage bins with it. And I'm no chemistry teacher or anything, but I know that you need like a special gas can to hold gasoline. And if
Exactly.
I think like gas eats through like plastic or something like that, or a certain type of plastic. So that could have been really dangerous if something did happen. But that's just
Yeah, so I mean, like, I I was genuinely surprised to see all of these people buying this and then selling the gas later on, right? In those plastic bags, those containers, used to fill up oil and stuff. And, the reaction was just sad. But the the headlines that is being put out from the
mhm,
media and the government, some things brings up the question of, should some things be said, right? Like,
mhm,
should this data be made to the available to the public, right?
yeah,
Or should this information, I mean, yes, it should be, right? Because the public should know, but seeing the reaction of the people,
mhm,
right? It really, you know, brings up the question of whether we should be, knowing about this stuff or not, because, we can't handle it. Right?
mhm,
People go into paranoia about, do we have enough resources for ourselves? Do I have enough from me and my family?
mhm,
And honestly, if we can't control that, then should we really be able to have the responsibility to be able to know about this sort of stuff and,
mhm.
be mature about it?
Well, I think
So
it's a very fine line, right? Because I think that it's not anyone's decision to like it. I think it's up to the people's right to know, because it's your government, right? It's your right to know, but also um you also have a right to protect yourself, right? Like you have that right that but when it becomes dangerous, that's when you have to draw the line, right? Like no one's telling you, okay, you have to be sit at home and you have to be like a sitting duck, right? Because that's how people felt. And because honestly gas is a very important thing. Like you can't literally your mode of transportation. So I get that, right? Everyone gets it, but no one's contesting the kind of like scariness of it, right? What we're contesting is the method, like in which you're doing that, like plastic bags or tubs, or the amount that you are taking, and stuff like that. And people were putting off-road fuel into their cars. And off-road fuel, if you don't know, it's fuel used for tractors and stuff, like agricultural stuff and mechanical stuff. So that is actually not taxed, um because it's not for like cars and stuff. It's for
mm,
like agricultural equipment and stuff like that. That gas is not taxed. It's diesel. I think it's red dye diesel. It's not taxed, right? So and what the government does is, or the companies do, is they put red dye into the diesel, and you'll be able to tell, okay, this is red dye diesel. And you can't put red dye diesel into a car because that's called like tax fraud, right?
yeah,
People
yeah,
were doing that, there's been reports of that happening. And the thing with that is that there's no way to tell if you're using off-road fuel in your car unless somebody stops you and suspects. Like if you're just like going down the street and you see a car going, you don't know what color the gas is inside the car, right? There's no
yeah,
way to like, after you stop the car and you know that there is red dye fuel in there, then it's very easy to check, but you won't know in the first place, right? So
yeah.
it's stuff like that that needs to be regulated. Um, but it's
So I
just
mean,
it's crazy.
my bad for interrupting, but going back to your first point, right, about the whole, rights thing, I do agree that, the rights of the people should be protected, right?
Mhm,
But using my AP Gov skills, right? So we're in a social contract, right?
mhm,
The whole that we give certain unalienable, we have unalienable rights, right?
mhm,
That some of them that we give to the government, like the right to arrest and, uh, have give serve justice to the people.
mhm,
But and then in return we have, you know the freedom to live, right? The freedom to, free speech, stuff like that. But if we can't control ourselves, right, then there should be some sort of way the government should control the people, right?
Mhm,
Because they have enough power, right?
mhm,
To make these sort of decisions, right? And if they're causing the people to, um, you know, go into panic about
mhm.
this sort of situation, then maybe there's something wrong with the system. I
Yeah,
mean, I don't know. I think that
I think
I'm
yeah.
I'm attacking a really, really
I think more importantly, it's education. Because personally, I don't want like the government interfering too much is not good, right? Obviously. So you should have the right to do right, like safely, obviously. You should have the right to buy as much gas as you want safely. But the thing is, it's the your community and it's your social behavior that matters, right? So I mean, and this is a pretty important topic in American government and stuff like that, and in American policy and before. It's that sense of this is the rule, these are the rules. They're very small amount of rules, right? But our values as American people, which is not, they're not rules, they're unspoken, right? They're passed down generations from generation. That is what glues it all together, right? And
yeah,
a big aspect of that is education. So I think that educating people is more effective than just putting a rule down, right? So I would say like obviously this is like a long-term thing, right? Like maybe increasing education, and be making people more aware about the dangers of doing certain things and about conservation, what you were talking about. I think that's better than not necessarily more efficient. I would say this is where we come at a crossroads, is that it doesn't have to be the most efficient way, it has to be the right way. Because if we take the most efficient way, then there'll be a lot of things that would be different in our government system. But our government, we studied in AP Gov, is set up in a way that it doesn't have to be the most efficient. It has to be democratic and it has to be the right way, right? So I
I
think,
completely agree. Yeah, okay. That changed my mindset on things. But quick question.
hmm,
If even who said that an educated person can't go into panic, right? Like even if
oh
when
yeah,
you go into panic, right, your mind goes blank,
hmm,
right? You start doing things that you wouldn't usually do, right?
yeah,
And when your property or something's on the line, right,
hmm,
you react,
yeah,
right? It's that fight or flight response. So I don't know, maybe that's just something to think about. Like
yeah,
maybe the people just need to work on their,
yeah,
reactions to
yeah. I
certain
think
things.
no, I completely agree. I think that it becomes again, this is like a kind of structuralism thing, but it's more like instinctually, yeah, like people will panic, right? Or not panic. Panic is, again, it's like an evolutionary instinct in us, because if something's going wrong, panic is what helps us not be in that situation anymore, right? It's fear, right? So like if bear's coming at you, you're gonna panic, and that you're gonna run or whatever, like or just stop and stare at the bear, what they teach you in
See,
like
like
the Boy Scouts or something. I don't know what to do when you encounter a bear, right?
people say, look big
Look
and
big,
scare off the
yeah.
bear.
So so I think that that fear is what gives you that kickstart into trying to want to, save yourself, right? And that's instinctual. And I think another part of that is environment, like your social environment. So if you're brought up in an environment where you are taught the difference between like, okay, so this is what it like, this is where the line is, and this is the moderate way, and this is, this is wrong. And that's where I think it makes a huge difference, because it's not like everyone was going out and getting gas, right? Because
Yeah,
education will only, you're right, like education won't help at all, because like you can be Albert Einstein and panic, right? But at least that education makes you stop for a moment, or not, I wouldn't say education, that awareness makes you stop for a moment and rethink your choices. And
I think you're right. Yeah.
I think that
So
may out of like 10 out of, I would say like 6 out of 7 people who are more aware of the situation will be eventually be able to control themselves more. And there'll obviously be that those four people who are not going to, no matter how aware they are, it's that instinct that drives them, right?
So actually, you're right. Education does play a big role, right?
Yeah.
Because looking back, right, we saw those videos, maybe pictures of people, taking gas, but that were, that's only like a small percentage of Americans, to be honest.
Yeah.
We don't know actually, like we don't
Yeah.
know who panicked, who didn't, but in the broad sense of things, like I don't, to be honest, I don't think people panicked as much as, or I think
Hmm.
people's reactions to that, right?
Hmm.
It's like we kind of like overreacted to those things. Like it's probably a
Yeah.
small percentage of people who actually, started going out
Yeah.
filling, who knows what plastic bags, whatever, with gas and stuff. But I think you're right. I think
Yeah.
you're right.
And yeah, I think that more I think there's no right or wrong answer. It's not black and white. There definitely needs to be some sort of regulation. Like I don't know, I'm not educated enough to say if I'm pretty sure it is illegal to, just fill up your gas tank or your plastic bags with gas, right? I'm pretty sure it is illegal, but you're definitely right. There needs to be some sort of regulation in that sense that w- you can't control people's behaviors with law, but what you can control is how to stop them if they do misbehave, or so how do you stop people like from transporting gasoline in unsafe ways? So I think that's going to be a major thing that we should think about. Not just gas. I'm pretty sure this applies to every situation. Um, but that's only the law will only happen after it'll only apply after the crime happens, right? But the step before that is that social construct of, okay, like this is right, this is wrong. That moment, like, okay, calm down, right? Um, like there was a cyber attack, but everything's gonna be fine. Although we did, what you did mention is the government's response was a bit slow, right?
I mean,
Pretty slow.
the root of
It
the
was it
problem
was
was
pretty
the
slow.
government itself,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I think if we are entrusting the responsibility of maintaining, um, you know, the public,
Mhm.
right, the general public and people, I don't know what to say. Like
Yeah,
it's such a big responsibility,
yeah.
right? The fact that, you know, I don't know, isn't this like a 5,500
Yeah,
mile long pipeline, right?
yeah.
That was so easily hacked, and that data being
Yeah.
put for corporate ransom, or
Mhm.
what's it, corporate data being put for ransom.
Mhm.
It's it's sad to see that it was
Exactly.
so easily
Yeah.
done,
I
right?
don't
You
think
might think
exactly.
there's more work.
I
Sorry,
don't
my bad.
think we it's right to put the blame out on the people's feet, just because honestly I get it. Um because like if you don't have like we don't live in like North this happened in North Carolina region more, right?
Yeah.
So we were in there, we had gas, and obviously prices went up, but we had gas, right? But in I think down south a little bit more, a lot of gas stations didn't have gas, and you're at that moment in time, a person, you don't know if it's a temporary problem. Hell, the government doesn't know if it's a temporary problem, so there's no way the citizen would know if it's a temporary problem. And at
See,
that
like
point,
they don't even my
yeah.
bad, but the hacker group, their name was Dark Side.
Hmm.
I don't know how these guys come up with these names, dude, but the government still doesn't know how it happened, or how they did it in the
Yeah.
first place, which is pretty insane to me. Like they're still vulnerable, right? Like
Yeah.
unless we've already seen many companies taking action, right, for their
Hmm.
own businesses and such, like how they hire like anti-hacker. I'm not sure what their names are. My mind's blank, but
Hmm.
how like they hire like these people who think the way
Hmm.
hackers do, right? And they counteract that using, you know, this these sort of people. So why can't the government do the same for
Yeah.
all of their uh what's the word? but I think you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But
It's because I know like business are driven by one goal, and that's profit, right? So they'll do everything in their power for profit, right? And they have all these financial analysts doing this calculation, that calculation to see, if we don't protect this, then this is going to drop. Like, obviously, if we spend 30 million in doing, setting up in cybersecurity infrastructure, right, then we'll save 300 million if something happens, right? So that's what companies are worried about because everything in the company is incentive based, right? A company just wants to get the profit, right? And the money is what matters. So they're going to do anything, but the government operates a little bit differently, obviously, because it's one, because it's so big, and two, because we have so many different moving parts, right, in the government. It's the system, it's the mechanical process of the government that is, you know, that's the problem, is because I'm pretty sure each individual person in, what we study is the bureaucracy, is not someone who's unenthusiastic. Everyone, majority, I'm pretty sure majority of the people, they want to make a change, but it's how you have to make a change, or how you have to be more efficient in the government, is the challenge that is not seen, right? Because not everything's not fast tracked for profit. So I think that's one. I mean, that's a basic, bureaucracy problem. That's a basic government problem that's been there ever since government has existed, right?
yeah,
But I think more important is like, why, what is Colonial Pipeline like a corporate thing, or is it a government pipeline? Like, I don't know how the pipeline thing works. Like, is it maintained by a corporation owned by the government, or
I think um it's supposed to be run by the government, but I mean, because who else would it? Maybe like Homeland uh, Department of Energy. I don't know. I'm not fully sure,
yeah,
but
because I think, like, if it is, we have the highest military budget of the seven, like, next countries combined, and plus more, right? And I think that we need to improve our quality in terms of cybersecurity, because we've been seeing, Russia being a big cybersecurity threat, obviously China becoming a big cybersecurity threat, Iran, uh, Korea, and Korea maybe not so much, but these countries being a huge cybersecurity threat. And I think that's where we need to put our focus, because I mean, do you really? I think I think that we need to focus more on making cybersecurity so strong, rather than having a plane that can drop an even bigger bomb than, whatever, right? Because let's be honest, I don't think that the next conflict is gonna be that, like that, right?
I mean, we already have so much, machines, and the military is well prepared in order
Yeah,
to deal with that, right?
yeah,
But I think every fragility, in the U.S. government was exposed during this
hmm
whole cybersecurity attack. Like the thing is, we're lucky that this was, they just wanted like some money for it, right?
yeah,
They wanted a ransom
yeah,
for this data. But if it was maybe a terrorist group,
yeah,
or some foreign attacker, right? We would have been screwed, right?
yeah. I
Like
mean,
now this just opens up like a whole another branch of danger for
yeah,
the US and the US government, because the people are going to start thinking that, oh, okay, now since this has happened, we're going to be vulnerable to so much more, right?
mhm.
Or not the people, but attackers, right?
Yeah, they're gonna know. Like, now everyone knows that, okay, we can do it easily. Like, think about it. If a group like, we don't know. I think I saw another thing that says, like, that could be a Russian origin or whatever. We're This is endless suspects, right? But if it was just like an extortion group, right? Um, Imagine what a country can do, right? Like, if dark side was able to do this, imagine what a bigger entity could do. It's crazy to think about, but it is a real possibility, and it is, we need to step up our game in terms of that. I think that if we don't do something about it now, I don't know what's going to happen, but this is something that needs to change. And honestly,
Especially
I
with
don't
so many
even,
different
yeah. And we have so many different branches. We, man, like, we got, I mean, like, so like a Homeland Security, FBI, uh, NSA, and everyone knows who these guys are, right? They're supposed to be the best in the world, and we can't put the blame on anyone's feet yet, right? And I will give benefit of the doubt is whenever something bad does happen, that's the only time people hear about it, right? So when something good happens, you don't hear about it, right? But
Yeah.
I think still, if it slipped through the cracks, we need to fix those cracks, right?
I mean, keep in mind that dark side is just one, you know, what's it, ransomware group,
Yeah,
right? Or that's what they're called, like people who extort data in order for ransom to make profit and, money. But
yeah,
imagine a group of people, like you said, from a whole different country,
yeah.
right?
Or a country itself.
In the country, yeah. I mean, the amount of damage that they could
Yeah.
do to the US government, the US economy is insane. And then,
Like economy is the main pipeline of everything that happens, like that's it. If they can attack this, and it's gas, right? So that's huge. It's one of the biggest. I think it's the biggest gas pipeline. But I think that I will say that as I was saying before, is probably threats like this are averted every day because of the people who are working at the FBI, NSA, CIA, whatever, DHS. I think threats are averted every single day, and we don't hear about it. Obviously, like we won't hear about something that is like, we took that down. It won't come on the news, right? When something does happen, that's the only time it comes on the news.
I
Um,
think, yeah, you're right. I think we should give them the benefit of the doubt, right? Only because we're also in a pandemic, right?
yeah,
People are vulnerable, right? The
mhm,
government, you know, has a lot of, issues, other issues to deal with
yeah,
also, right? And they're on their guard, but
mhm,
I think mistakes happen, right? And
yeah,
I think they can learn from this whole
yeah,
situation. But I think it's also the people's responsibility to know how to act in these sort of situations,
yeah,
especially during panic,
yeah,
right? We can't go out, start making even
yeah.
more of a shortage than it already is, right? And
Yeah, I think
raising prices.
if people didn't do that, then it wouldn't have been much of a more of a problem. But uh, that's the thing about timing is they don't know if it would have been more of a problem, right? Like that's where it's like whose side do you take, and that's why we have to say there's no side to take except move forward and learn. Um, because yeah, like you can't blame like obviously blame the person who's like taking it in like plastic bags, right? Wrapping it up in plastic bags like you would do with trash. Blame that person, but don't blame the instinct of people, who are actually affected by it, and also don't put the blame on them. I think that it's a very fine line between everything, but yeah, will definitely be interesting to see like what the reaction to this is, number one. And will this change like the people's view, or like
I mean, I think
about
it's
how
definitely
to
going to change the people's view,
yeah.
right? The people are going to have a whole different idea of the government. I mean,
Mhm.
if they already don't, right? I mean, it's it's up for the people to decide how they're
Mhm.
gonna, use this information and,
Yeah,
deal with it. But it's fun and games stealing each other's money, right?
yeah,
People, hackers they could care less.
it's fun
They're
games,
already
it's fun and games stealing each other, not fun and games, but this was about money. Next time someone wants to hurt somebody else, imagine what they can do, right? Like
exactly. Yeah.
that is scary, and we need to step up our game and ensure that doesn't happen. I do like obviously, like I do have confidence, in all these different agencies that we have, because like the thing is, like I was watching those like documentaries on Netflix, and they're like so many events have been averted, like economic, like political, not economic, social, like a lot of these things have been averted, right? But you never hear of it. If something did happen, then you would hear of it, but you don't. Like so, like
Yeah.
every day, maybe they solve three 3 or 4, like I'm just saying, like a person who works like at the FBI or something, they solve like 3 or 4 cases of this magnitude every day, and it gets averted, right? All right, move on to the next project. But something does happen, then Fox, CNN, everyone, everyone's on it, and like, but
Everybody's
it's
they go
still
crazy.
not an excuse, you know, when it comes to that.
I mean, nobody's perfect, but
Yeah,
they did take up the job to deal with this sort of thing,
yeah,
So I'm not gonna put too much blame on them,
yeah.
right? But
I think the blame to put is on dark side. How we take them down now?
yeah,
That's gonna
yeah,
be interesting
yeah.
to see.
Um, well, I mean, this is a pretty good conversation.
Yeah.
I think we both learned a bit from it,
Hmm.
and it changed my mindset about
Mm.
the certain things that the government has to deal with on a daily basis, right? Especially the stress of it. And if I was put in that position, I don't know what I could do, right?
Mm.
If it's a big responsibility,
Yeah.
especially you know with so many other issues going on currently.
Yeah.
I don't blame them, but they did
Hmm.
take up the role, right?
Yeah.
So
Of course.
they have to be able to put, especially the media, right,
Mm.
and hand with the government, they have to be able to make sure the public doesn't go into panic,
Yeah.
right? They have to make sure that they word it correctly,
Yeah.
right? They have to put it out there in the right way so that people don't go mad.
Yeah.
And
But
but yeah,
great discussion.
so I think it's been like a good 30 something minutes, but I'm not
Yeah.
fully sure, but it was great. So
All right.
thank you guys for watching, and hope to see you next time.
All right.
See ya.
And listening for our podcasters out there. All right. Until next time.